Okay, so I did... What have I invested into? Last time was attack speed, which is... Yeah, that is good. Is block. Oh, block is not an option here. Alright, I'll just... whatever. We'll just see what the Shieldmaiden can do. I probably shouldn't do another run, but we'll do one more. FPS with levels of in-depth that are only found in material and ammo simulators. Oh, you mean like for like messing with your weapons? Oh, this character attacks really strangely. Shoves groups of enemies away with her shield. Damage scales with block strength. Yeah, so we've got a hammer bonk, but then we've got shield business. Wait, do I just walk into the enemies and they just die? I have no idea how this works, but I'm kind of excited to find out. I guess another example of a game where, like, size really wasn't a benefit to it was... I liked the idea of Cyberpunk 2077, and maybe it's gotten better over time. But that world was just kind of too big. Okay, so I can take some damage here. Not much. But I think the shield slams are just triggered automatically as an attack, rather than a you bumped into enemies and they died. I don't know. I don't want to get, like, too deep into this whole, like, big games are actually bad, because I think there is a space for big games. But I think a lot of developers learn the wrong lesson. That one of the most distressing things I've been encountering lately is that every AAA game now has to be a big game. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. So, like, as far as this year is concerned, I think I've only played one AAA game. And it's been Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I want to play Jedi Survivor, but, I mean, it's not even functional. Which is kind of a separate thing. Maybe it's better now, I have no idea. But, you know, playing that first 2 hours of it, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I'd like to play more of this. But the performance is icky. And I also know the game's going to be, like, kind of long, so I don't really want to invest too much time into it. Base defense and bonus damage. I should probably focus on block strength. Let's go for the block strength for the time being. The Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the gold standard of why. And so, like, I would actually pay full price for an alternative version of these games that just cuts out almost all of the fluff, remixes most of the, like, really interesting content into a much shorter package. You know, give me the full experience of Jedi Survivor, but cut out, like, half of the exploration. I think I'd be happy with it. Same thing with Tears of the Kingdom. Like, they're good games, but gosh, I would rather play 2 good games in the time that it... Or 2? I mean, probably 4 to 5 good games in the time it's taken me to play Tears of the Kingdom, but I can't stop because it is that good. I want to like the Assassin's Creed games, but there's too much fetch quest and collectibles and stuff. Yup. So I keep singing praises for Scars Above. Comes in, does the job, and leaves. I wish they had sent me a copy. Like, it's, I realize it's kind of tacky of me to be like, they need to send me a press copy for me to cover it. But it's one of those where I was given, like, 6 games that week, and it was not one of them. So I was just like, alright, I guess I'll cover these 6. I'll wait until it's on sale, and then I'll go back to play it. New God of War series seems like a properly lived-in world. Yeah, I really liked God of War 2018? I thought that was a really good game. I've been meaning to go back to it, but time. Let's work on my orbs. See if I can make them nice and chunky this time around. Because I know I have a bunch of achievements for maxing them out. Ponder them. Watch them spin. I cannot wait until Orb of Creation gets that big update that's promised. Let's see, base health and block strength. I'm just gonna keep scaling my block strength if I can. I want my shield bash to be good. I probably should have actually looked at my starting equipment a little bit. I don't like God of War, but I just can't get into it. Yeah, I mean, I can't blame people for that. I played Ragnarok for about 3 hours and I turned it off, and I haven't been back to it since. I don't really know why. I think, from my perspective, I think most of it probably just boils down to the fact that I'd already played it before. Like, the differences between Ragnarok and 2018, I really wish they had done a tagline for the new God of War. I know it was supposed to be kind of the Doom-style remake, but now that there's Ragnarok, it's hard to talk about God of War 4, I guess? Because what do I call it? New God of War? But that's not gonna be valid forever. I'll stop being valid as soon as they decide to reboot the series again. I don't know. God of War +1. Probably God of Boy. Dad of Boy. I guess I'll just, yeah, default to the Dad of Boy. You're right. That's probably the best way of doing it. Like, Dad of Boy, it's a great game. But going into Ragnarok, it was just a continuation of Dad of Boy. And I don't think, like, it was weird. There weren't enough mechanical differences from my perspective to make it feel fresh. I had the same problem with Horizon Forbidden West. That I was just kind of like, I could play more of this. I guess I did actually play through the entirety of that one. I think it's because I was a little bit more invested in the plot. Whereas God of War, I know the storytelling is great, but it doesn't present a whole lot of mystery to me. Like, I guess for frame of reference, go watch my first episode of God of War, Dad of Boy. I called the, like, big twist of the game within, like, the first 18 minutes. And, yeah, I enjoyed this story, but I was just waiting for it to happen, and then it did, and I'm like, I called it. There was a lot more elation than me just being like, I called it, but... Yeah, what's next? Dad of Boy Japan? I like Egypt, potentially. Additional attacks. I think I'm just gonna keep going for defense. Because we do actually benefit. I should probably pick up some regen, though. We barely have any. Egypt would tie into Greece. Nah, that's a good point. Dad of Boy Tokyo Drift. Unironically, that would be really funny. I would happily play a PlayStation All-Stars Racing as a goof. Did that ever get made? I legitimately don't know. Because I know they tried to do PlayStation All-Stars, the Smash Brothers competitor. But, like, I feel like you could actually do a really interesting kind of sort of midpoint between Smash Bros. And racing that involves, you know, a lot of classic PlayStation characters. This is a terrible idea. Let's see. Do I want to work on my orbs? Yeah, I said I was going to work on my orbs. I should commit to orbs. Okay. 1% attack speed for 5 seconds for each enemy killed up to 50%. Ooh. I'm going to grab the Wind Crown. I don't actually think that's particularly good, but I can see that scaling well enough. Yeah, it looks like it caps out at about 20%. That's not terrible, actually. Let's see. It's interesting. I get so heated about the whole, like, infinite game thing. It's very much something I want to do a video essay on at some point, once I actually finally can commit to doing those fully. I might have one out on Saturday. Hopefully it'll be Saturday, I don't know. But part of the reason why I've I haven't been streaming as much is because I've been in kind of this weird funk where I haven't really know what I know what I want to do, but I'm not brave enough to exactly commit to it, which is, yeah, really going harder on, I want to say more like evergreen content, video essays, reviews, stuff like that. That I've been running into this issue where a lot of games are just kind of bad. And it's been a little demoralizing, you know, that I don't do Let's Plays anymore, which is probably good for me because my voice just can't handle it for multiple hours anymore. Like, I used to be able to, but not so much. But that, you know, I've switched over to mining for indie gems, and every once in a while I find one and I get really, really sucked into it, like this. And I have a good time with it. But a lot of other games, I'm just kind of like, this game's about only fun for about an hour. And then I never want to ever even open it up again. There's a couple that make, like, major, or that are major exceptions. So, like, obviously I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom. And then, oh, let's go for the metabolism. I didn't know this character had quite so fast regen. But so it's been kind of this like weird funk where I alternate between having really good weeks because the games I'm covering are fantastic, and then really bad weeks where I can barely find anything good to play, and I feel like I'm just kind of phoning it in, and that's kind of a bad mental space to be in, because effectively I need to be positive about the games I'm covering, otherwise people pick up on it. No one wants to buy, or no one wants to even consider a game. I don't want to say like buy, because that makes me feel like I'm hyper marketing. I guess I am. Like no one really is going to be convinced to watch a video, let alone consider a game. If I'm like, yeah, welcome back to another episode of Halls of Torment. It's okay, I guess. Like, no one wants that. And so to some degree, like, I have to stay reasonably upbeat about what I'm doing, or I shut the game off. Because if I'm too harsh on it, then why even put out the video? I could, but people are just not gonna watch the whole thing. Every once in a while there's a game that's kind of fun to like hate on, like I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way through Skill Up's Golem video, which they were trying to send me a copy and I was just kind of like, I don't know about Golem. It looks kind of sketchy, and this was like months ago, and I'm glad to find out that my like gut instinct on that game is quite vindicated. Let's go for the attack speed here. Playing as the cleric? Shieldmaiden. I don't know if there's, the cleric is a completely different character. Though they do have kind of a similar multi-wave attack. I actually do find some of the protagonists in this maybe are a little too samey, unfortunately. Golem Bass, stop diluting the franchise. I'd be fine. And I think this is actually something I wish more developers would do, is with Golem, what they wanted to do was make another big blockbuster hit, but nobody was willing to actually fund it. So instead we got this kind of mediocre trash trying to be a blockbuster hit. What I want is for like big IP holders, instead of trying to make the big game, just give me like a Shire, like restaurant or in-sim, where I'm just managing, okay, maybe not Shire, but like a Lord of the Rings in simulator where I'm straight up managing the Prancing Pony and, you know, just dealing with, you know, running an inn in Middle-earth. And just keep it very slice of life, have a little bit of like background lore, one or two important characters show up and you have to kind of cater to them. And that's it. Golem came out. It's either out now or it's coming out in like a day or two. I think it came out today. But like, hire the Bear and Breakfast developers to just reskin Bear and Breakfast to be, you know, Lord of the Rings Prancing Pony Simulator. I don't actually know if the Bear and Breakfast developers would go for that kind of thing, but from my own perspective, Golem isn't interesting because it's this like big non-canon who cares kind of story, whereas if I had like a in manager by a trusted developer with a good pedigree, you know, making a kind of quaint, who cares if it's not canon kind of game that doesn't try to be anything more than just a fun little in-sim while also being a good tie-in, like, that'd be way better. Kind of like the board game thing I was talking about earlier, you know. Don't go overboard trying to be something that you're not. Did I just, like, delete that dude? Yeah, I did. Sick. Because I think everybody wants to make the next Hogwarts Legacy, and that is such a, like, weird, colossal risk that I just wouldn't recommend it. I guess part of the reason why I bring up the whole, like, managing the Prancing Pony or something like that, I used to play Lord of the Rings Online when it first came out. I don't think piercing is going to be very good for me. I guess let's go for the movement speed and regen. And one of my favorite quest chains, I don't even know if it was a quest chain or if it was kind of a repeatable thing, but if you start in the Shire of Lord of the Rings Online, you can be a mailman. And I think I spent easily like 5 to 6 hours sort of role-playing as a mailman. And it was kind of stupid, but I really enjoyed it because it was kind of a different experience and, you know, not rather than just going out to hunt wolves all the time or, you know, venture forth into, I don't know, a spider-encrusted forest. It was just like, yeah, let's go deliver some letters to some hobbits. And then maybe fight one or two things along the way while also, like, mining for resources and whatnot. And it's kind of one of those where if everybody tries to make the next, you know, Hogwarts Legacy or the next Tears of the Kingdom, let's see, reduce orb size, more damage and crit damage, sure. But I think ultimately what we're going to end up with is a bunch of Lord of the Rings Gollum where it's just doesn't stand for anything, has no real creative liberties, and just kind of sucks. I don't know, really I also just wish more indie developers got these cool contracts. I think actually Lord of the Rings Gollum might have been one of those like pseudo indie companies. Is it by the same people that made oh, what was the Goblin game? Gosh, I can't remember. It was like the same developers as Orcs as Humans? Styx, there we go. Is it by the Styx people? Because I thought I heard something that it might have actually been made by those people. Which, like, would almost make sense, but the trick is with something like that, if the developers have only ever made a small-scale game, don't make a large-scale game. Yeah, no idea about Styx, but it did well enough when it had its run. I think from my perspective, like, Styx was fine. I didn't get into it because I found the stealth mechanics a little frustrating. And then I wanted to play Styx 2, but it had multiplayer, and it felt like I really wanted to play that multiplayer to have fun with it, and just didn't have anybody to play with at the time. But if it is the same developers, what they should never have done was said, make anything other than Styx, or make anything longer than Styx. Okay, it wasn't... Wait. I don't think it was the Deponia. If it was the Deponia devs, that's a weird choice. Because the other thing I would say is never hire an indie developer to make a game that they haven't made before. Just in terms of scope. Like, I love Supergiant, but I would feel very weird about playing a fully 3D open world RPG made by them. I'm sure it would be good, but I'd have that inkling feeling of like, but I think I would have rather than made Hades 3 instead. It was the Deponia devs. Yeah, that's probably it. It's by Daedalic. So Daedalic is a big publisher, so I'm not entirely sure where they stand, because they've made and published a lot of things. Okay, so... Retrieved? Oh, we've retrieved that, but we haven't done anything with it. Do we want to actually grab the plated boots? I think we do. Because the movement speed isn't really that helpful to me. Oh boy, but I do feel slower without it. Let's see, Shadow Tactics as well. No, so Daedalic is a publisher, but with its own in-house developers. I know for a fact they didn't do Shadow Tactics, because that's Me. They just published it. So I'd have to look up what internal studio handled it with Daedalic. Because Daedalic also did Blackguards, if I remember right, and like a couple others. And so they're not always the same developers. Wow, that Wind Crown is actually really good. I think we'll have to go deliver it before this run is over. Nacon? Isn't Nacon the Styx devs? I don't know. I'd have to look into it further. But I think in this case, Daedalic saw it as an opportunity to probably, hopefully, bust their way into being proper AAA developers. And I think that was a mistake. I think what they should have done was took the license and then made 10 games instead. Each kind of with their own... I mean, really, I would say try and tackle it with the same gusto that the Warhammer devs tackle things, except for... or Warhammer developers, you know, the sub-developers that make the Warhammer games, except for actually trying to have some quality control as opposed to just being like, yep, we're just gonna publish whatever, because, oh boy, sometimes that's spicy. Let's see, Styx devs are owned by Embracer. Oh yeah, maybe you're right about that. I don't know. I truly have to look into it to comment further. I don't know. I think the problem is they got Gollum and we're like, okay, how do we make an interesting game about Gollum? And I think they missed. But again, I haven't played it, so I'd have to comment further. But it just feels like one of those kind of weird management things where everybody wants to make the new blockbuster. And it's kind of like how, I guess I'm actually reminded of the Dark Pictures anthology. Or not Dark Pictures, the Dark Universe. Sorry, I get those mixed up sometimes in my head. I need some water. Let's see. More block, more defense? Yeah. I seem to be able to walk through a couple of these enemies, which seems kind of valuable here. Honestly, cribbing off of Styx would be a good way to make a Gollum game. Hence why I thought, for whatever reason, I thought it had been by the Styx devs, because Styx is exactly how you would make a Gollum game and have it not suck. You know, small, weak character that can... Hey, I'm hitting for elite damage. That feels good. Small, weak character that can only kill enemies with the element of surprise or certain aspects of brutality, but never in, like, direct full frontal combat, and almost never interacting with another person. Like, Gollum is a hateful, hateable character. And I think your entire point for playing as Gollum is to just be a little cretin doing horrid shit, but to goblins and orcs, instead of anything else. It's funny how Blockbuster died, yet we still use it as the big thing. The word existed before Blockbuster, but it's still funny. I mean, I think it's kind of prescient, it's kind of this, like, weird sign of the times. Or it's... I don't know, it's just anybody that tries to make a blockbuster almost inherently fails. And that I think people should learn from the foolishness of Blockbuster. So, I don't know. It doesn't quite work, but really it's the Dark Universe is the one I keep thinking of. I don't know how many of you guys have specifically know of, like, how that boiled down, but originally, who owns the Dark Pictures? Paramount? No, I don't remember. Another orbit lane gets summoned, which will rotate in the opposite direction. More orb! Oh, hell yeah. I'm a constellation now, suckers. I wish the Dark Universe had been managed well. I wish it had too. Sort of. Kind of, sort of. I mean, here's the thing. I didn't really have a whole lot of hope for it when I heard that they were headlining Tom Cruise for the Mummy movie. Though the video game was good. But I was always hoping that whoever had made the Van Helsing movie from, was it 2014 or something like that? I wish they had actually just kept chipping away at it, because that movie was legitimately really fun. I don't think it was necessarily that good, but I go back to watch that movie way more than almost any other movie. Just in terms of, like, it's stupid, but, like, a lot of shit happens in that movie, and every scene is kind of its fun little own adventure. As dumb as it was. It was fun and super low budget. Oh, I didn't know it was super low budget. Cool. but that I think the mistake with the Dark Pictures, or the Dark Universe, was that they wanted to make their own Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that is a terrible mistake that everybody in movies seems to make, unless they're Disney, at which point, whatever. Latest headline, Fifth Element's Cinematic Universe. You know, honestly, that could maybe be okay. But it probably won't be. Arcane Splinters, Transfiction. Let's just go Arcane Splinters. I don't think I really care too much here. Yeah, fun movie, and I like what they did with the werewolf and Adam, Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein's monster was... That was an incredibly good depiction of him. I mean, honestly, just everything. With Fifth Element is getting a new movie. Is it? I'm just joking, but it honestly could be. The main thing is, it's not going to be anything like... it's not going to be anything like the original one. I don't know if the actress is still around, but I'm pretty sure Bruce Willis? I'm like second guessing myself out of the actor's name for random reasons. I'm pretty sure he's like, his mind is like actually going, so I wouldn't really expect his further involvement. And Marvel's already connected, a good chunk of that work was done for them. Yep. I mean, you pretty much didn't have to do a whole lot of legwork when developing the world, developing half the characters. You already, like, all they had to do is just remix all of the best hits from the comics, and just have it be its own thing. And I think they did a really good job with it up until Infinity War, and then I've seen like one Marvel movie since Infinity War, and I was pretty okay with it. And I'm not really looking forward to watching more, because I don't have a whole lot of confidence. Okay, Bruce Willis was ill. Yeah. Jason Statham. Bruce Willis's heir. Isn't he, like, reasonably old, too? I don't know. They're just gonna get Chris Pratt. He'll be the new... what's-his-face, I'm sure. The other thing to note is specifically with the writer's strike going on, I don't have a whole lot of high hopes for the movie industry for the next, like, 3 years. There will be a couple of movies that are already finished, and that are just in editing that'll be pretty good. But, like, I don't know how many of you guys were old enough back in 2000... It was 2008, right? It was like 2008, 2009. Kind of those couple of years. Everything that came out around then was just dog shit. It was so bad. There were a couple that were, like, passable, but I found myself, like, actually... Every once in a while I, like, go back to find a movie from that era, and I'm like, yeah, what was wrong with that? Was that my fault? Oh, I never got the spike... I didn't wear the spike boots. Oh. Let's go for the elven boots. That might actually be, like, banger on this character. Ow. But so I went back specifically to Wolverine Origins. The one where Ryan Reynolds was first Deadpool. And it was, like, the opening for that was actually fairly decent from what I remember. And then the rest of the movie was irredeemable garbage. And I was always curious why, because I hadn't really heard about the writer's strike as a kid because no one was talking about it. Social media just didn't really exist at that moment. Nor did, you know, any level of, like, the news wasn't talking about it too much, and nobody in my peer group was talking about it. And so effectively, the writer's strike didn't exist except for as something kind of in retrospect. And I wish I'd been paying attention because to some degree, go figure, half of the movies and TV shows from that era sucked. They didn't have writers. But I didn't realize that Wolverine Origins was bad because they just didn't have writers for the movie. Oops. Yeah, the news doesn't like talking about strikes. Yeah, go figure. which is kind of a downer because we kind of need them. Anybody following the new Battlestar Galactica felt the strike. I remember watching the pilot for that and thinking, oh, this is pretty good, but kind of dark. And then I never followed up on it. I'm kind of glad I didn't. I wish they would actually go back to some of those shows, like, after the strike and be like, yeah, we're just gonna retcon everything after the writers went away and just pick the show back up again. As kind of like a whoopsie-doo, we goofed it. Turns out we do need writers. Honestly, I've even been feeling like pre-writer's strike, I've been feeling the... I don't want to call it like the new normal. Effectively, a lot of shows have been kind of sucking lately because they hire the writers on a contingency basis to write like an episode or two. You know, they bang out the whole series or a season in like a week. And then have every writer go home and write the individual episodes and kind of put them together in post. Because that really sucks. I don't like that format, and I've been noticing it in a lot of shows. Specifically, Mandalorian does it well because their writers are good, but does it poorly because, boy, Mando alternates between being a really good and interesting and complex character and a complete dunderhead, and it's like the tonal shift between one episode and the next throws me off more often than not. And I understand, like, that is inevitable when you have, like, what, 8 different writers writing a show? But on the flip side, feels like it would have been better to have 8 different writers just piled into one room. Yeah, we've got a writer's strike and an authorized 4-vote SAG-AFTRA strike. And the Max relaunch may have just kicked off a director's strike. Good! I think these things are incredibly necessary. I know there's always going to be people being like, no, the writers, you know, just need to deal with it. And I had this argument with my mother, and she was just like, well, maybe they just need to write better, then they'll get paid more. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that's how this works. But she's from the generation that, where unions were kind of demonized. And her generation, very specifically, is just like, oh, we don't need unions. Well, appreciating, ooh, parry 5 in a run. Invincible upgrade. But trying to talk to her about it is this, like, weird brick wall. Like, I went to school to be an artist, and it's so weird talking to her about art in general. Because I'll be talking about, like, yeah, artists are kind of undertreated, or undertreated, mistreated, underpaid and mistreated. And her, like, go-to immediate is just like, artists should have just gone to school for a better job instead. And I'm like, Mom, like, your favorite movie when I was younger was How to Train Your Dragon, because of just how well they rendered the beard hairs and how much that, like, visually impressed you. And, like, prior to that, it had been Iron Giant because it was an incredibly beautifully animated movie. Like, I don't know. It's super baffling to have this person that has idolized arts for so long in any way, shape, or form, while also simultaneously sticking up her nose about anything related to treating the artist well. Have I been getting duration this entire time like a fool? Damn it. Attack speed, movement speed. Let's go for the movement speed. High standards, but low cares for how the sausage gets made. And honestly, I wouldn't even say she has high standards. She's just impressed by certain things. But there was a period of time last summer where they were fixing up my bike, which had hydraulic brakes, which turns out is a little hard to fix. And so they bought the cheapest repair kit they possibly could off of Amazon. It was like a $3 repair kit that wasn't even translated into English, and they found the English directions online. And didn't break my bike, but the mineral oil included as part of it was so bad that they had to, like, siphon it back out again to fix it, and, like, some of the other parts just didn't work. And then they got the second cheapest one, which worked well enough. And they're like, there, now you can go biking. The problem is we live on a mountain, and you have to go very fast down a hill to leave. And I've already fallen on my face and, like, ripped up my face going down that hill with real normal brakes. And so now I have sketchy, questionably functional brakes in my bike. And so I pretty much refuse to hop on said bike. It's not that art isn't important. It is important, but the free market determines prices. I question the free market often, because it feels like the free market is... maybe not the most free, and very much the... market is a toy for certain people. Do I want to get the wind crown? No, let's get the elven slippers. Those seem pretty good. Okay. And let's honestly throw in the movement speed. I gotta get up to that magnet. We haven't found another one. Let's see. Mixed feelings about unions. On one hand, they're very important. On the other, you're excluded from yours because you're not skilled enough. That's stupid. And I will say, I don't think all unions are good. I just do think that they're a necessity to some degree. But that's really odd that you would be excluded from any of them. I guess, no, I don't know. I was excluded from the, what union? What was it? I was working for UPS. I was excluded from the union for that because I was just a temp worker transporting, just bringing packages to doors for like 2 months. And that was not union eligible. But I almost want to bet that specific limitation isn't because of the union, but that's something that the business limits. So that the really low-end workers don't benefit as much from the union's existence, allowing them to exploit you more. I could be wrong, though. But I know that's specifically why I, as a temp worker, was not being pulled into the union at all. Do I want to just go for the raw damage? Yeah, let's go for it. Oh, I made it to the end. I never even got to that magnet. Oh. Okay, that skull is death. I see. So that's how this works. So I have to kill this guy in a limited amount of time because he effectively curses me. Ah, that's an interesting choice. I wonder if there's a way to clear it or dodge the skull. If you're fast enough, maybe. It could have also been a case if I got mine and they wanted to limit who's in it. It's usually foolish, though. Most unions only function if they specifically can have enough membership to have bargaining power. And if you exclude the lowest of the low, then you pretty much can't have a union. But, I don't know. Boy, we got a bunch of meta progression from that one. Did we get a new character? Sadly, no. Oh well, let's take a look at a couple of things. So, fire damage, health regen, health capacity. Really, I'm just looking for anything new. Block strength. We unlocked that one, finally. Okay, swift as an arrow. No. Scorched earth. We only have a little bit left. Unholy crusade. Oh, gosh. I'll have to go back to play, oh, ability radiant aura. That's worth it if I want to go back for a cleric run. Because I bet radiant aura is specifically garlic aura. Survive 20 minutes without regenerating any health. Recovery from potions or effects is allowed. Pace setters. Huh. Okay. So, 750,000 damage with Kugelblitz. Voltage and discharge. Fencer's gloves. Defeat a lord. I'll have to figure out. I really wish I could actually mark some of these so I can figure out where the hell a lord is. Oh. Tower. Wait for 3 minutes before you start moving. You must move in order to complete the quest. That's fun. Oh, I didn't get 3 million damage of shield blast. I don't know what Kugelblitz is. Maybe my regular attack? And 30 minutes without any defense buffs. Oof. Yeah, some of these are kind of hard to pull off, but I'm sure as we unlock more and more of them, this will get even easier. Because especially if we can get a bunch of the traits. Blessing revives. I don't know how much we care about that. Gold gets brewed in barrels. What is that? What does that even mean? I don't know. And then back to the haunted caverns if I want to do it. Yeah, we still got to get like 1.5 million damage with the arcane splinter, but I think that's just an upgrade for the splinter. Trait type, bodies and material. Yeah. So we gotta give the astronomer's orb more of a shot. Oh well. Okay, Kugel Blitz means ball lightning. The main problem is that her hammer, or is that something else that I haven't interacted with? I don't know. Well, one way or another, I am starting to lose my voice, so I should probably switch to some other game. Oh, import prelude save game. I think I already did though, so that doesn't really matter. But yeah, let's go try something else for a little while. I really do like Halls of Torment. I want to play more of it. It might just be my, like, warm-up game for the next couple of streams. Okay. I said I was going to try out Above Snakes. It looks like a really good sandbox survival game. Now, I'm going to go back to standing up. Because, yeah, it's kind of hard to mine for indie games when you only mine for one and they get stuck on it. It's a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but I do have other games I should be probably checking out and showcasing. But